Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. Joined alongside Jacob in Wisconsin, fresh out of a Walmart near you. Just kind of sprung this one on Jacob at the last second. One thing I could say about Jacob, he disappears every now and then. Life gets busy. You don't hear from him. He's not, hey, I'll be here, I'll be there. He just kind of pops up and it's like, hey, Jacob's here. But he is always up at the butt crack of dawn. Is that the truth there, Jacob?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I inherited from my dad and my grandpa. I wake up no matter what at 5 a.m. every day. I'm just like, what the hell?
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. I'm like, his grandpa, old school farmer, taking care of the land, grab that cup of coffee before the sun comes up. That's where you get that from for sure, man.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we're going to talk a little Packers this morning. Before we do, let's give a quick shout out to our sponsors today. And that's the good folks over at Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access. Wisconsin based since 1992, specializing in Packers tickets. They are Wisconsin's largest ticket source with offices next to Lambeau Field and in Milwaukee. Just click on the link in the video description here that'll send you to theticketking.com where you can register for free as a customer and go ahead and start shopping for your Packers tickets. They're going to be able to hook you up for everything you need this coming Packer season. Again, that's Ticket King. Check them out at theticketking.com, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access. We appreciate them sponsoring the show. So just a quick recap of what happened yesterday. Obviously, Wes Hodquist tweeted this out. The big news of the day was Kalen King getting number one snaps and immediately capitalizing on it, as Wes Hodquist said. Also got some snaps in the slot and on the boundary, like Paul Brettel pointed out. Also in the news and notes there from training camp practice was Evan Williams just keeps making plays in the Packers secondary. He seems to really I think he's solidifying himself as the backup safety, possibly at both free and strong safety, to be honest with you, Jacob. I don't think he'll surpass Bullard unless something goes just crazy wrong for Bullard and he really struggles. With what we've seen from Bullard so far and Evan Williams, kind of feels like that's going to be the top three dogs in that room. Now, Anthony Johnson Jr. may have something to say about that once we get a little deeper into training camp. So that was just kind of what was going on yesterday. Anything you want to add to that? I know we talked about it pretty extensively yesterday before we get into some Jordan Morgan talk here, man.
I mean, yeah, we did talk about it pretty extensively yesterday. I think more than anything, this is pretty telling for what could be a slow career start for Keita Oladapo. I mentioned it a few weeks ago that it didn't sit right with me that he wasn't on the field yet because it just seemed like there was so much other young talent, even specifically at the safety position, but just in general in the secondary, on the defense, on the whole team. And sure enough, I wasn't expecting that we'd hit 3 out of 3 safeties, but so far the 2 out of the 2 that are on the field have basically exceeded my expectations so far with it. Williams especially because we've talked about how we definitely knew what we had as far as the human meat missile aspect of his game was. He was going downhill at with his hair pulled back and just on fire in that aspect, but he's completely shown up on the coverage side, which is a pleasant surprise, and I did not expect that so quickly. And it seems like he's like, I don't know if you've watched interviews with the kid, but he seems really mature. He seems like the game's not too big for him. He's easy to root for, so it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, completely agree, man. I tell you, it looks like Goody might have hit a pocket of studs there at the safety position. Now, again, it's early. We're through 1 week of camp. I understand things can change in the blink of an eye, but once we get Oladapo on the field as well, the sky's the limit. I mean, when you think about it, I think we were arguably. It's not even arguable. I was way more excited about Oladapo than Evan Williams. And now you see Evan Williams flash, and it's like, okay, if what I seen on the college tape with Oladapo is accurate, along with any and all of the analytics and grades we broke down in the offseason going into the draft, man, Oladapo is liable to be another guy that just kind of comes in and really plays well. And again, it helps that you got Jeff Hafley, who is the defensive back whisperer, right? That's what all the former greats like your what's his name? He's already escaped.
Richard Sherman.
Yeah, Richard Sherman. I mean, obviously a borderline Hall of Famer. Some would say a slam dunk Hall of Famer. Played cornerback in that Legion of Boom back in the day. They don't win those championships without Richard Sherman shutting down half the field, that's for sure. And the fact that he had he spoke so highly of Jeff Hafley when he spent a little bit of time with him in San Francisco. Really says a lot. And it's so cool to kind of look back to, Jacob, and schematically how these players go from one team to another, but it's the same scheme, right? Because obviously Robert Saleh took Pete Carroll's cover 3 buzz scheme with the 2 high shell down to San Fran. And then Jeff Hafley was there. And it seems like when Richard Sherman, this is what I'm trying to say, when Richard Sherman comes from a great defensive program in that era with the Legion of Boom, and he steps into San Francisco, and one of the things that sticks out to him the most is this young coach who's just an absolute stud at communication and knowing exactly what he's trying to accomplish with the secondary, really speaks volumes, because Richard Sherman came from one of the best defensive coaches and defensive staffs, I should say, in the league at the time. So it's going to be exciting, man, for sure. Let's talk some Jordan Morgan, man. Obviously, the thing that I talked about a little bit yesterday when we were doing our training camp coverage, Wes Hodkiewicz and several other people tweeted out. He said, "I ain't Larry McCarron, but I thought Jordan Morgan had 2 solid reps while playing guard against Devontae Wyatt in one-on-ones." The reason I wanted to highlight that real quick is because, obviously he was a left tackle in college, he being Jordan Morgan, played really well as a tackle in college, obviously well enough to be a first-round pick. But it seemed like since day one, LaFleur kind of seen him as a guard. And you'll notice early on, depending on how well you feel about Rasheed Walker, we had talked about, maybe he could play guard, because they're talking about he could play pretty much any position on the offensive line outside of center. Maybe he can play center too. I don't know. But I think everybody, with it being a first-round pick, a large majority of us kind of expected him to come in and unseat Rasheed possibly. But obviously Rasheed hanging on to that, and they plug him in at right guard, and it seems like Jordan Morgan's fitting right in at right guard, which is really exciting. Because when you look at his tackle grades from college, Jordan Morgan here graded out as an 83.4 his final year in college at Arizona. That was what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th best in all of college football from an offensive grade standpoint. And when you look at what he did really well, that pass blocking grade of 87.1, right? That's phenomenal. It looks like it's probably 4th highest in the country there, according to those grades that are on screen. Now, his run blocking was solid too at a 77.0, and with a 6'6", 320-pound frame, with what he played with in Arizona, really shows you this dude can move, man. That's one of the things that they really liked about him was his RAS. Obviously, they probably have another grading system that they use other than RAS, but essentially it's the relative athletic score. How does he stack up against everyone else at that position in the history of the game? And he was right there towards the top. So obviously he's got the height, he's got the a little bit of the reach. He's obviously got the weight, he's got the agility. Everything seems to line up here for Jordan Morgan for sure. Now, when you look at his entire college, is there anything you want to hit on there as far as those tackles and how that grades out, Jake, before I move on to his entire college career?
No, it's I think the Packers are using him kind of where they need him. I think if we maybe, God forbid, if something happened to Walker, if Tom doesn't actually come through with his injury recovery, I would think that we would probably want to kick him out. But as of right now, I think our biggest weakness by far is probably that right guard position. So I think it's just the fact that he's so talented and honestly, I think it's a great spot for him to kind of dip his toe into the water as a rookie, as a pro. And then, once he solidifies that guard position, I don't think there's any reason to think that he couldn't be the swing tackle that's already on the field for us. And then hopefully we got another pipeline coming up in that guard position to kind of be the swing replacement there.
Yeah, completely agree, man. The value that's there, let's say, and again, I hate to even mention it, but we're all grown adults here, right? Like, injuries happen in football, happens all the time. If for some reason Rasheed Walker goes down, then you just you kick Jordan Morgan over to left tackle, unless Caleb Jones takes a step and he makes the roster and he's your backup tackle. Yep. But if you do kick him over to left tackle and then you throw in, a Sean Ryan into right guard, Sean Ryan has starter experience. Now, some would say it's not great experience. I understand, he didn't play at a high level by no stretch of the imagination, but you've also got a young Jacob Monk, which it sounds like Jacob Monk's going to take some time. It's going to take some time for him to get acclimated to the pro game in this offense. At least that's what I'm hearing. But nonetheless, man, you put yourself in a position where you've got a backup left tackle at right guard. I personally don't like having to move 2 bodies for 1 injury, And what I mean by that is Jordan Morgan kicking the left tackle and then bringing someone in for Jordan Morgan. Now you theoretically got worse at 2 spots as opposed to just 1. but at the same time, they may see the value of Jordan Morgan at backup left tackle, far exceeding any negative that might come along with it. So it'll be interesting for sure. So Jordan, go ahead, Jay. You got something else or no?
No.
Okay. Jordan Morgan, here is his complete PFF college card. Obviously 6'6", 320. He was a senior last year. Offensive grade last year, 83.4. Pass block grade, 87.1. Run block grade of 77.0. The thing I wanted to point out here was look at how he kind of he stabilized his grade from 22 to 23, but I really want to point out that in 22, sometimes you can go back a year and go, ooh, I don't know, last year was kind of bad. I mean, when you look at it, 84.2, he was actually slightly better in 2022 as the 10th highest graded tackle in college football, as opposed to 2023 where he's the 13th highest. So that's just something to kind of take into consideration there, that he's had 2 really good years of football, right? Yeah. And again, he's good at everything. He's good at run blocking. Some would argue he's elite at pass blocking. So if anything, it's really going to help protect Jordan Love on the interior too when you go up against some of these tough 3 techs. And who do we got week 1? Philadelphia. They got one of the stoutest interior defensive lines in all of football. Yeah. It's going to be nice to have someone who's got tackle experience and a pass blocking grade of 87.1 at the college level. They're protecting Jordan at right guard. So
that's probably the NFL defense with the most Georgia players other than Green Bay. What'd you say?
I'd say so, yeah. I'd say so.
They got pretty much the last 2 championship winning defenses. They drafted almost everybody they could.
Yeah. They went Jordan Davis, and then last year I'm trying to think of who the other guy was.
They had Nakobe Dean. They have like 5 others.
There's another defensive tackle that was just an absolute stud too that they got. But yeah, it's Jalen. I don't know. I don't have right now. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, they prioritize their defensive front. There's no 2 ways about that. So the reason I wanted to talk about this is I've been reading Bobby Peters' book. And if you guys have not picked it up yet, look for the 2023 Green Bay Packers Complete Offensive Manual by Bobby Peters. And it's real telling what he kicks the book off with. And I wanted to go back to it. I'm far into the book and pass it up, but I wanted to come back to it because it's the staple of Matt LaFleur's offense. And that is what we refer to as, this scheme has always been labeled as a wide zone boot scheme, meaning you run a lot of wide zone runs and then you bootleg off of it. How many times have we see Jordan Love bootleg left and throw across his body? Because defenses kind of give you that to a certain extent, thinking you would rather a quarterback throw across his body than be thrown on his arm side, right? So the wide zone run is the staple. It's the backbone to Matt LaFleur's offense, and more specifically the Kyle Shanahan tree. Now, they've taken it a step further with what we refer to as weak outside zone, meaning you're running outside zone to the weak side of the formation, okay? And we're going to break this down and explain what all that means. And Bobby Peters, like I said, go pick his book up. It's an amazing book. He did a phenomenal job. Here's a page out of it. I'm going to read it real quick, okay? It says, outside zone weak is a foundational concept for the Packers. It is the starting point for how most teams outside zone. It's often the simplest version and can be called out of any formation. The thought process is to try and capture the B gap on the play side against 4 down over fronts. I'm going to say that again. The thought process is to try and capture the B gap on the play side against 4 down over fronts. Let me hit pause for just a second. When we say over front, what are we talking about? We've covered this before. If you go to the defensive fronts, and over front is where the D tackle on the strong side is in a 3 tech, and the D tackle on the weak side is in a 1 tech. And again, if you pull up the text, 3 tech means they're shaded to the strong side. So they are shaded to the Y on this graphic right here, right? So if they're shaded to the strong side where the Y is attached, which is essentially the tight end, if that's the case, when you run weak side, you're already playing with a +1 hat count. Okay, that's why LaFleur likes to attack outside zone on the weak side, because the goal is to get a hat on a hat and get +1 in any situation. Whether you're in coverage, you want +1. That's why you try to hit home with pressure and 4 and have 7 in coverage. You're trying to keep a +1. We talk about Saban's box defense, right? And how he always tries to, if there are 3 receivers on one side. He tries to create a box around them, so you stay +1. 4 defenders on 3 targets, forming a box. On the 2 side, if it's a 2-by set, they go with a triangle look. Why? Because you're going to have 3 guys on 2 receivers. You're always playing +1, whether you're in the passing game, the run blocking game, attacking the run, whatever it may be, you're looking to gain a hat in every situation. It's a simple numbers game. And when it comes to football, you're attacking space and you're covering space. So when you go to 4 down over fronts, what LaFleur said was, okay, you want to show over because we like to run some strong side outside zone run. We're just going to start running weak outside zone. And that really forces them to try to come out of those over fronts. Once they come out of those over fronts, now you can manipulate the passing game and everything. So he goes on to say, if the center can't reach the nose, the play will cut off the 3 tech on the backside. This defender is most often comboed by a backside guard and a backside tackle. The Packers like to RPO the concept as well. This allows the to account for loaded boxes. I think it's meant the offense to account for loaded boxes. Understand too, Bobby Peters has got a lot of typos in this book. I love it, Jacob. I love it that he doesn't waste time trying to make everything perfect. You get the gist of the information. He's a football guy, right? So he said they called the Omaha RPO shown in the first diagram 7 times. They threw it once in week 12. The RPO is best against single high defenses that gets 7 defenders in the box against 11 personnel variation. The Omaha route is left one-on-one. With that Omaha route there on the left, some would just call it an out. It's almost like you're bending it like it's going to be like a 9 fade, and then you round it on off to an out route there. So the reason he mentioned single high, as you see in this diagram right here, when they go single high, most of the time it forces your corners to have to play off. And that's something else you need to take into consideration this year with the Packers' new defense. If we're going to be showing pre-snap single high and we're getting out of the pre-snap shell look of that too high shell, you're probably going to have corners playing off and maybe attacking underneath post-snap, if that makes sense. So that's what I'm kind of expecting to take place with Hafley's defense. Now, back to this diagram here with the RPO, you can see how he's looking to attack with a outside zone weak look. And when you see this diagram, they're actually showing you an over front. Okay, Jacob should be back here in just a second. With the over front, notice how the defensive tackle on the strong side being, the tight end side on the left here in this diagram, it's a strong left. The defensive tackle on the strong side is in a 3 tech in between the guard and the tackle. The nose is in a 1 tech in between the guard and the center. Okay, so that's how that kind of lines up. Now, let me pull up another diagram for you guys here, and let's go this route, and I'll show you the RPO. I basically drew all of this up here. So essentially what happened is you've got the same exact look where you're in a dub set, and it is a nasty split. Notice how you got the X and the F or the fly on the right side in a close split. On the left side, you get the Z. I mean, he's snugged up almost like an extra tight end, although he is flexed just a touch. All right. So you see they're in an overlook here, right? And when you see the defensive tackle right here in between the guard and the tackle, that's your 3 tech. The defensive tackle or the nose, which is always playing closest to the center, is obviously in a 1 tech. The reason they're shaded in an over is because they're trying to prevent that +1 hat count for the offense, with the Y being on the left side here. So when you do that, you're forcing them to shade into an over in most cases. When they shade into an over, now you can go weak side outside zone, and that's how you can gain in the hat count. Now, there's a few different points to point out here. This safety could be in the box, right? They were showing a diagram where he was down here in the box. That's okay. I just had him playing just a touchdown, almost not quite spur, but close to that point. Now, with the RPO aspect, okay, first of all, the defense is in an over. We've already established that. With the RPO aspect and this Omaha look that he's talking about, I just call it an out route because Omaha is actually another term that's used for a route combination, a passing concept too. So does the Z have cushion and you got to prep for the right end in the throwing lane? And what I mean by that is this corner playing off or is he playing snug? If he's playing snug, Jordan's probably going to peep that and say, you know what? I'm not even going to try that because this guy may fade and then jump the route. It's just a guessing game at that point. Now, if he's playing cushion, now the RPO is on the table. So In most cases, RPOs are decided at the line of scrimmage pre-snap, meaning Jordan comes to the line of scrimmage, he sees this look, he sees the cushion and thinks, all right, if that corner does what I think he's going to do, I'm just going to fire this RPO out there. Now, if he comes up and this corner is playing, a little snug or maybe outside leverage, and okay, that little out route, that little Omaha is not going to be there, then pre-snap he says, okay, let's just give it to the T and let's run the rock here. Okay, so that's what we're talking about with pre-snap. Does the Z have cushion? That's the first question. He does in this case, so the RPO is on the table. Now, the other thing is the right end. Prep for the right end throwing lane, okay? Meaning you can fire that thing out there, but you got to make sure you got a throwing lane. If this right end rushes outside and gets his hands up, that RPO is not going to be there. It's something you've got to be aware of in a split second. And it's not anything in regards to Jordan Love maybe not throwing that out route on the RPO. It's simply getting the right arm angle. And you got to have the arm talent to throw at multiple platforms and different arm angles to make sure you hit the proper throwing lane so the right end doesn't just bat the ball down. Jordan Love is one of the best in the game at doing that, albeit in early career. So that's what we mean by does the Z have cushion and prep for the right end throwing lane. All right. Now on to the run side. Let's say that the corner is playing just a little bit of outside leverage, trying to funnel it back into this single high look, trying to funnel the Z back in. He's going to take away anything on the outside and deep. Okay, so if he takes away any and everything on the outside and it's deep, then what he's going to do now is work to the run on the weak side. Okay, Jacob, you good, brother?
Yep, just had a little power out.
Gotcha, man. Good deal, man. One of those that it goes out for a split second, just enough to screw the whole day up, basically.
Yep.
Those are the worst, dude. They drive me.
Reset all my clocks in the apartment.
Exactly. So what I was just explaining is the RPO aspect of this look, this weak zone or wide zone weak RPO look. Everything that we were talking about before, they're in an over front, which means the D tackle on the strong side, which is the side the tight end is. He's in a 3 tech. The D tackle on the weak is in a 1 tech. And we just explained how with the RPO, if they're playing cushion on this side, the RPO is on the table pre-snap for Jordan to just fire that out route or that Omaha. That makes sense? So all we've covered to this point. We're moving on to the run now. The run aspect of this RPO weak outside zone look is really simple. Let's say you've got them in an over front, okay, meaning they seem where the wide, they know we're strong left, so they're going over to that side. If it was under, guys, they'd be playing to the weak side, meaning this D tackle here would be in a 3 tech. He would be here, and this D tackle would be in a 1 tech. But instead, we're in an over front, which puts you there. Now, look at the hat count you've got. If you divide the field right down the middle, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blockers on the right side of the field, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys to block with your free safety playing well off. That's the only guy that the T has got to beat, right? So that's the only guy on that side of the field that the T's got to beat. Now, this is where duo and zone and wide zone, even inside zone, can get very confusing. This is an outside wide zone run, all right? This is a weak outside zone run. It's designed to get the offensive lineman moving in one direction, and then the running back uses cutback lanes. There's not a specific gap like, listen, hell or high water, you stick to this gap. If there was, this might be considered duo, and it might be designed to go to the inside shoulder of the right tackle. But since we're going outside zone weak here, what it simply means is the running back has the freedom to use whatever lane he wants to use, okay? Now, couple things. The reason it looks similar to duo is because look at what you're doing with your guards. Your left guard, you're doubling the nose and then trying to get out to the mock. Your right guard, you're doubling the D tackle on the opposite side and trying to get out to the will. So you're looking to double, next level, and get those backers cut off. And here's the important read. The running back reads the left end out to in. What does that mean? Notice how the left end, as it sits right now, and I'm going to pull the techniques up again. He's playing the outside shoulder of the right tackle. That would make it a 5 tech. If you look right here, let's just go flip here. We're actually in a strong left. On this diagram, it's strong right. Go to the left side, the outside shoulder of that left tackle here, but just flip it because we're going weak side here on this specific play. That's what we call a 5 tech, outside shoulder of the tackle. So since that left end is in a 5 tech right here, the running back is going to read it out to in, meaning If this left end, if he busts out, right? Let's say he just kind of goes head up and takes on the tackle straight on. Then what's the running back going to do? He's just going to bounce this thing out, right? He's going to keep it outside. That's what he's going to do. Now, if this left end, as soon as the ball snapped, he plays kind of contain or sets the edge and gets out here, guess what the running back does? He cuts it back in, right? And that's the beauty of zone run. And again, the right guard gonna block this D tackle and then get to the next level and hit the wheel. So the only person on this play, on this weak side outside zone run, is this free safety. So by the time he gets down in here, the running back should have a full head of steam. If the X blocks the nickel back there, the slot, if the fly gets to the corner on the boundary or on the outside, then it should be one-on-one with the free safety. And look at the run and go the T's going to have. That's why Matt LaFleur absolutely loves the wide zone weak RPO plays. Does all that make sense, Jacob? You got any questions at all about what we just covered or any comments, man? It's pretty cool to see it on the board like this, exactly how everything's designed to work. And this is where it's important for Jordan to come out. First thing he looks at is going to be the fronts. He's going to look up and go, okay, they're in an over front, wide zone weaks on the table. What's the cornerback doing? I've got free reign. Everybody thought it was just always Aaron Rodgers doing what he wanted to do on the field. This is all baked into Matt LaFleur's offense.
No, what's crazy, though, is that all that made sense. The terminology, everything. It's great because I bet you we could have ran through that and I would have said, oh, yeah, I understand. Like, you know,
right.
A year or two ago and been like, I didn't really understand most of it. But, yeah, I got everything there. All the concepts, everything. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. And all it takes is repetition. And again, there's going to be stuff that people do this year that's brand new that we're all going to learn from, right? That's the beautiful thing about the NFL. It stands for not for long because everything is totally changing. Now, remember we talked about pistol with the LA Rams? So let me explain this. Wide zone, the strong wide zone run in this play is not on the table here, obviously. As a defense, you come out and if that T is strong, you can't be too worried about outside zone left, right? But what if you went to a pistol look? And this is what I mean by that. What if we did this? Quarterback steps up just a couple of yards, and now you put the T. Look at what's on the table now from a defensive standpoint. And I say that because when teams go up against the Packers, what they're going to start doing is if it is a sidecar left like this out of the gun, they may start playing even. They might just start covering the guards and play it like this. So they're a little more protected against that wide zone weak. So if they start to do that, one way that the Packers could combat that is they could go to a pistol look. Because when you go to this pistol look, guess what? Everything's on the table. You can go wide zone weak. You can go wide zone strong. So as soon as they start to move, and here's the thing too, don't be surprised if you see the Packers start to show this and they come out in their normal set. Let's say they come out in their normal look like, let me get this off here. Give me just a second. I'll find my undo button. Let's say the Packers do come out in their normal look and then all of a sudden the team they're playing, they go to more of an even front and they cover the guards like this. What if they checked out of the sidecar, right? Bang. And then shifted into the pistol. Now they've got to communicate on the defensive line to get back in their over front if they're worried about that strong side look, you know? So it's just it opens up a multitude of things. And that's why it's important for the quarterback to be seasoned, to be able to get to these different looks and be able to make things happen in that regard. So I don't know, man, that stuff, that gets me fired up. And I love that Bobby Peters started the book off with that because it's so important that everything runs through that wide zone look. And then you get into running boot action too, right? And we won't get into all that. I think we've geeked out enough here. But with boot action, especially out of like ace looks, single back looks under center, you start running weak zone, weak zone, weak zone, weak zone, especially wide look, and then you boot back to the strong side. And typically what you'll have happen is that Y will show this block. Let's just do it here, just for craps and giggles. Let's go to the ace, all right? Let's pretend like this is play action here, Jacob. So we're just going to run a little play fake here, okay? And what Jordan's going to do is play fake out of it. Keep in mind, we've shown wide zone weak the whole game. We've set this up, right? And let's say that in this case, instead of going to this RPO look, this route here is just going, let's say it's just going to stretch the defense. Let's say the Z is just going to kind of get out here and bend this thing out, right? Well, now we're going to have Jordan run a little boot action, fake the handoff, roll to his left, and then the Y is going to set up that block and then leak out underneath, right? So you got a leak underneath, and then let's say the X comes across. See how that opens everything up? You get the whole defense flowing to that weak side of the formation. All these backers are going to flow over. That's going to cause a lot of problems. The backer starts to snug up on that weak, right? And you open everything up. Now it just becomes a high-low read for Jordan throwing across his body. Does this corner clamp down, or does he go up top? Regardless, someone's going to be open. Why? Because you got the hat count. It's really that simple. So hopefully all that makes sense. I don't know. I love this stuff, dude. This is the type of stuff that it's what I've fallen in love with when it comes to the game of football, especially at the pro level. College, you can manipulate the hell out of defenses. Pros, it's like there's such a minute amount of space for making mistakes, and you can see we see somebody miss a block or miss an assignment or get in the wrong spot. Jacob, we go, what's he doing? There's a lot to this, bro.
Yeah, it's easy to make mistakes.
This could be a weak wide zone run. Jordan come to the line and do this, and now the play goes to a boot left. You know what I'm saying? It could be anything. So pretty cool though. Hopefully that makes sense. I don't know if anybody's even in. Yeah, we got a whole herd in here watching. Don't we? Good to see everybody for a surprise pod. Not too bad. So some people were going, okay, Clayton, that's great. You nerded out. I hope you're happy. What kind of results are we talking? Here were the results from last year when they ran wide zone weak. Okay, forget the RPO pass. Although it may have been an RPO play, it means we ran weak wide zone run. Okay. Average yards per play were 4.9 yards per play. It was called on first down 17 times. We averaged 4.2 yards on first down with it. Pretty darn successful when you think about it. Second down 6-1, meaning second down and there was either 1 to 6 yards that you needed for the first down. Okay, some people refer to it. I've never seen it broken down 6-1. I've always heard of second and short, which is like 1 to 5, and then it's like 3 to 7 or 3 to 8. Is called medium, and then long, of course, is anything over 7 or 8 yards. But second down with 1 to 6 yards to go, it was only called 3 times, but they averaged 5.3 yards a carry with wide zone weak runs. Now, second down and what we refer to as long, second down and 7 yards or more, Jacob, they called it 10 times, and they averaged 6 yards a carry, dude. So you could see defenses like, okay, they're probably going to pass here. Now, let's just run weak zone. I guarantee you what happens. They came out with a pass play call for the majority of the time. They look up and go, okay, they're giving us the outside weak. Let's just run it, right? So pretty impressive stuff there. Now, they did run it in the red zone between the 10 and the 20-yard line. It was called 4 times. They got no touchdowns off of it. There's no I'm sure that the yards per carry was factored in there, but they didn't get a touchdown. They did not call it one single time inside the 10-yard line. Now, why is that? Because most of the time when you're inside the 10-yard line, those safeties are up in the box or they go to somewhat of a hybrid goal line defense. Yeah. And, man, they can cut that weak side zone run completely off. So, pretty good numbers here, though, right? With you can see why Bobby Peters opened up the book with it, man, especially that second and long, man. They chewed it up 6 yards. I mean, that puts you right back on schedule at 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, you know?
Yeah, for sure. That's cool. I've never seen it broken down like that. It's a little bit interesting.
Yeah, when you hear us talk about charting plays, this is what we're talking about. Like, and take your eye off the ball. I was going to take a picture and post it on. You guys remind me in our Patreon group, if you're in our Patreon group, say, hey, Clayton, man, show us a picture of that chart you were talking about. Because the way you can chart games, and I don't do it as often as I used to, but it's literally down, distance, personnel, what kind of run was called, was it a pass or a run, what was the play called. In some cases, you go as far as what kind of front were you facing, what was the defense, chart all the information. I don't have the time for it anymore, but it really, that's how you come up with a lot of this information. But if you guys will remind me in the Patreon group, we'll get that over to you. And also, if you're interested in joining our Patreon community, just scan that QR code in the upper right. That'll send you directly to our Patreon group, or you can click on the link in the video description. We also do giveaways out of there for people who support the show. We give away free memorabilia, stuff like that, just as a thank you to those who are supporting us. But again, just scan that QR code. We're going to be doing a giveaway. We're going to be giving away a copy of Take Your Eye Off the Ball 2.0 that was donated by United Bates, one of our loyal listeners here. We're going to be giving that away to one of our Patreon members. All you got to do is be a member of one of the 3 tiers there. We'll put you on the wheel, spin it, and whoever it lands on, we're going to give away a free copy. That's just a way, like I said, we can give back to you guys and gals. So, yeah, that's the Jordan Morgan talk, essentially. Before we wrap it up, Jacob, anything else you want to add to that? Because the whole reason I got into that talk was because Jordan Morgan, man, he has the athleticism to be able to get that double on the backside nose, right, off the line, and the ability, the athleticism to get to that Mike backer and cut that play off, because it's the most important aspect of that. So if we've got him at right guard here, right, look at his job. At right guard, his job is to help double that one tech and then cut off the wheel, right? That's his job. You got to have athleticism to do that. So I think everything we've seen so far, man, Jordan Morgan has the athleticism to do it for sure.
Yeah, and I think people, maybe myself included, have kind of been stuck in the mindset that the Packers want these high RAS guys because we want to throw them at tackle, and we need the tackle position specifically to have that high RAS, and that's true. And I think that's a fair assessment that most of the time they want them to be up in that high, 9+. But I think we ask the guards to do just as much athletic type of stuff, if not more, like you talked about, climbing to the second level, having to outrun linebackers that are running sub 4 or 5 40s. These guys have to be pretty quick with their initial burst, and to be able to outrun them and cut them off at the angle and that sort of stuff. And I mean, you look at Jordan Morgan, he's not a small man by any means, but he does look quick. He doesn't look lumbering. He looks a lot more of a athletic, like more of a tight end than you watch some of these offensive linemen run. Like, look at that. That's pretty smooth, man. I mean,
right. Yeah, it's exciting, man. And, you bring up a great point there. It's like every scheme is different. I always list left tackle as your tier 1 of importance position alongside with quarterback. Now, obviously, quarterback's more important than left tackle, but you've got to be able to protect your quarterback in deep drops. You got to, especially with the righty, you got to protect his backside. But when you look at LaFleur's offense, that play specifically, that was the staple for Matt LaFleur's offense last year in the running game, right? Did you notice the left tackle pretty much is obsolete in that whole play? You could literally, they're essentially letting the guy that's lined up over him in the right end just come at the quarterback, and he's just helping double over on the 3 tech that's pretty much getting cut out of the whole play. That's what Bobby Peters was talking about. Like, if we pull that back up one more time, there was something, and here we go right here. It says, if the center can't reach the nose, the play will cut off the 3 tech on the backside. This defender is most often comboed by the backside guard and the backside tackle. So it's a combo block. It's like, it's not, you see right there, that tackle, he's kind of, you can let the end crash on the left side if you want, but also you're just going to kind of get to the next level and seal off that safety, that strong safety. But the safety is essentially out of the play because it's a wide zone weak. And this play here, even with the RPO, it's all about the quarterback being smart with the arm angle to create a throwing lane past the end to get to that Omaha look or that outlook if you want to throw that. So I say all that because, we always talk about on here, you want to find out what's important to someone, look at their calendar and look at their checkbook. Where are they spending their time? Where are they spending their money? Where did they spend their time this year? They spent a ton of time scouting Jordan Morgan, and they drafted him, and it looks like he's going to play guard. Where have they spent their money? Who's the highest paid offensive lineman on Green Bay Packers roster right now? It's Elton Jenkins, left guard. So they're spending their money at the guard position right now, right? They're spending draft capital at the guard position. I think we just found out why in that little breakdown, because they love a lot of what the guards can do athletically to get to that second level in some of those wide zone looks and whatnot. So you mix in the RPO with it, and Jordan having the arm talent, the arm angle, and the smarts to be able to diagnose at pre-snap. Remember what Greg Cosell said on the show yesterday. yeah, this dude by the second half, he was changing the play, changing the protection. He had everything pre-snap going for him. Now, go back to what we talk about as the most important. That's a great look there. Look, getting off the double. That's what we were just talking about. Look, getting off the double, next level, right? But I don't know. It's just I lost my train of thought there with what Greg Cosell said, but just basically being able to pre-snap. Oh, that's what it was. The four most important things. One of them is not arm strength. I think most if not all quarterbacks at the NFL level have enough arm strength, but it's pre-snap read, post-snap read, accuracy, and quick release. Jordan Love has now proven he's got all four of those. Now, can he stay consistent, stay hungry, and continue to work at it? Watch him drive right here. And I know it's just a drill, but look at this, Jacob.
Yeah.
Look at his feet, bro. Poor Caleb. I think it was Caleb Jones, too. Poor Caleb's like, but just come on, let's practice. What are we doing here? So, anyway, we've nerded out enough over that. Anything else you want to add to the Jordan Morgan talk about?
No, that's about it.
All right, cool. Let's do this. Let's talk a little Jordan Love, another Jordan on the team. 33rd team put this out there. We're always talking about first half versus second half, first half versus second half. There's some Packer fans now that are claiming he didn't have a bad first half. I don't understand why we're trying to lie about it. It is what it is. It's not a big deal. He got better as the year went on. That's the most important aspect. But 33rd team tweeted this out. Jordan Love dominated down the stretch last season. This is the best breakdown I've seen of showing first half versus second half, basically weeks 1 through 9, weeks 9 through 19. Weeks 1 through 9, he had 14 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Not horrible, right? 223 yards per game, though, 6.7 yards per attempt with an 80.5 rating. And you go on to games 9 through 19, 23 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 261 yards per game, 7.8 yards per attempt, and 111.9 rating. I mean, that is night and day right there, Jacob. That's wild.
Yeah. I'm one of those people that have said when you look back at the beginning of his of that season that it wasn't that bad. And I think that that's when you take it into consideration that I believe if I've seen roughly these two sectors broken down, that the first half he was roughly ranked around 18th quarterback. So like that's not horrible, but it's definitely not what we were thinking with our first round draft pick who sat for multiple years and all this
trading the first ballot Hall of Famer, right?
Exactly. But that being said, if we look at it through that lens, I mean, even if he didn't improve throughout the whole year and he was right around like the 15th to 18th best quarterback, I honestly probably would have been not okay with it, but I would have swallowed it with like a I would have swallowed it and pretended like it was okay. I would have been going into the next year with like, all right, he's got at least one more year to show it. I probably would have been way more nervous about whether or not it's going to be a bust or not. But again, just to see the resurgence, and you can't argue with those. I mean, that is pretty night and day. Especially like people don't realize just to go from 6.7 to 7.8 yards attempt, that's a massive jump. Like that's a really big leap. And obviously the interceptions and touchdowns are just talk about insane. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is, man. And the big thing that stood out to me was, again, he wasn't you guys know, I was like, man, how is he sat on the bench for 3 years and he's not going to be controlling the protection, because they were talking about that early in the season. And what it was Matt LaFleur actually came out and said, we want to take as much off the plate as possible so he can just go out there and play quarterback. About halfway through the season, they took the training wheels off. Now all of a sudden he's setting the protection. He's changing the play at the line of scrimmage. The other thing in the first half of the season, he was playing behind schedule. Now, some of that's Jordan, but some of that's the rest of the offense, too. Everybody's got to get acclimated together. That's why training camp's important. I mean, you've seen it yesterday, Jacob. That's a different offense with Jordan Love on the field than Sean Clifford. What? Like, it got way better. So you got to play with timing. He didn't play on time in the first half. His accuracy was a mess in the first half. And what's crazy is I would argue that in the first half, he was trying to throw on platform more, like be kind of robotic. The second half, it's like LaFleur said, okay, you've got free reign over the protection and just go out there and play your game. And I think LaFleur even said it in a presser about halfway through the season, like he just got to go out there and be himself. Next thing you know, he's doing the jump spin pass that we've seen from Aaron. He's throwing off the back foot in Minneapolis on New Year's Eve. I know you love to see that where you live over there.
Oh yeah.
It's really cool to see him kind of step into his own. And man, I'm telling you, that dude, what a class act. I'm so glad he's the quarterback of the Packers for at least the next 4 years. I think possibly the next 10 years. It's going to be exciting.
Yep.
That touchdown to interception ratio is the reason the Packers made the playoffs, by the way. I cannot tell you how important turnover differential is.
I just think really quick, too, that if he is able to even remotely be that consistent throughout the course of the year, you imagine what our team could look like if he completes, let's put the games 1 through 9 on par with the same numbers as games 9 through 19. Let's then add in all the second-year steps from players that were now not, versions to this offense, but we do have first-year players that are going to be really stepping in. And then the biggest part of it to me is if that defense is even close to being a top 10 defense, even a bottom, a plus side of the 15th ranked or 16th ranked defense. We haven't had that in so long. And I just this team could be legitimately, I don't know, dude, 14, 15 wins just because if the quarterback play is that good, if the offense is humming and the defense is that great, I don't know, dude. I really have our heights set pretty freaking high. Cause I don't know. And if Anders Carlson keeps this streak going where his dude's nearly perfect and he's booting it from 50 plus, no problem. I mean, this team could be crazy good, dude. Crazy good.
Right. The sky's the limit. And it's all going to come down to just taking that next step and protecting the football. I'm telling you, man. Turnover differential and middle eight are the two factors that really control. The middle eight controls the momentum of the game, and the turnover differential, I'm telling you, it's like if you're plus one turnover differential, it's like an 80% chance of winning. If you're plus two, it goes up to like upper 80s or even lower 90s. If you're plus three, it's all but a slam dunk. You're going to win the ball game, unless you're just chucking that thing around with your third string quarterback because you got a 3 touchdown lead, right? Let's go to the chat here real quick. We'll wrap this thing up. Jarrell Lee in the chat said, I'm a fan of Jordan Morgan. Something about him I like. What I love about him is he came in and day one said, I want to be the left tackle. I want to be responsible for protecting Jordan Love's backside. He specifically said that. Now, obviously, LaFleur said, shut up, rookie, get it right guard. And he did that. But just the fact that he wants that responsibility, man, that says a lot. That says a whole lot about the guy. I'm with you. I think Jordan Morgan's a class act. I think he's going to be a great addition. M. Smitty pointed out, as he always does, my man doing the research for us, Jalen Carter is the other defensive end for the Eagles. So it was Jalen Carter. Go ahead, Jake.
Oh, nothing. Just Paul Brittle tweeted out just about 13 minutes ago that Rich Bisaccia will be speaking at 10 a.m. this morning, followed by Adam Stenovich, and then followed by Jeff Hafley. So that'll be great. Right. We can check that out for tonight.
Definitely. That's what we'll hit on this evening for sure. Any other updates that come down the pike. That's what, look, Omer said it right here. We got our coordinators pressers this morning, I think. So grab you an afternoon cup of coffee over there in France, Omer, and let's check those coordinator interviews out. We'll be hitting on that this evening. Jarrell Lee said, I love these breakdowns. And then Omer said, yep, Jarrell, PTA, where you come to learn X's and O's of football. The beautiful thing is we're all learning together, man. It's a blast. Once you got to know where to look. That's the big thing. It took me forever to figure that out as a fan, and I learned it from Pat Kerwin with the book, Take Your Eye Off the Ball. That's why it's labeled that. Stop following the ball and start knowing. I think the other part of the title is understanding football by knowing where to look, something along those lines. You got to know what you're looking at and what really makes a play go or breaks a play down. But, yeah, I'm all about the X's and O's, man. I love that we get on here and get an opportunity to just learn from each other. Omer says, Love don't throw INTs. He can't be beat. It goes for most quarterbacks, man. It's true. And then Omer said, this D keeps getting turnovers like they are in the preseason during the season. This team's going to just roll. That's the key, the other key to the turnover differential, because we sucked at that last year. We had like 7 or 8 dropped interceptions last year. Love and the offense didn't protect the ball very well in the first half. The second half they did. And I think we got the majority of our turnovers, our takeaways in the second half of the season. That it all lines up. So that's what it's going to come down to is takeaways and protecting the football. So anything else, Jacob? Like I said, we'll cover those pressers this evening. Anything else you want to hit on here before we wrap up, man?
No, that should be it.
All right. Sweet, man. This was fun. I think it was like I said, I got rained out today, so I had an opportunity to go live here. I wish, if it had been a day where we're going to have another training camp practice, we'd have done what we did yesterday, which was a lot of fun, man. I got a lot of great feedback from the whole weekend. So we'll try to do that again every weekend through camp if I'm available. and not out of town. But yeah, so we'll be back tonight, 7 p.m. Central for PTA Live. We'll hit on what the pressers covered. We'll also get into some other information that we've got. I had it keyed up. We just ran out of time. A really cool article from Packers Wire. I know Paul Brettel put a cool article out as well. We always want to touch on his stuff. Also, Spot Track did a complete in-depth breakdown of Jordan Love's contract extension. We may hit on that a little bit too. I mean, he breaks it down, the extension terms, the signing bonus, the guaranteed structure, the cash flow, the salary cap hits, the potential out discussion, a win for the, quote, trust the process. It's a really cool article. We'll make sure that we hit on that. I'll make a note so we don't miss it tonight. So that being said, we're out. We'll see y'all at 7 p.m. Central. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. And go Pack, go.